Ratna Manjari, or a collection of gems, on how the throne came by. The first statue, which had an extraordinary number of beautiful gems studded to it, responded to Raja Bhoj. Salutations, Raja Bhoj, my name is Ratna Manjari. Let me narrate to you the story of how King Vikramaditya obtained this throne. A long time ago, the kingdom of Ambavati, which is the old name of Ujjain, was ruled by King Gandharva Sen. He wanted harmony in his kingdom. In the early days of India or Bharat, the caste system had emerged as a way to identify the occupation of the people. There were four castes: the Brahmins, or the intellectual class. These were the persons who pursued in gaining and spreading knowledge related to Brahma, or the supreme god. The Kshatriyas, or the warrior class, these were the persons with physical and mental strength and courage who took up various tasks related to protecting the weak. The Vaishya, the trader class, these persons used their skills to produce and distribute various kinds of goods. And Shudras, or the toiling classes, who did not have any particularly developed skill and hence tended to take up tasks related to manual labor. People generally took up these occupations for which they had an aptitude or they had a liking. It so happened that in the majority of the cases, the children learned and practiced and took the same profession as the father. Hence, people mistakenly started to identify the caste not by the aptitude or the profession, but by the family in which a person was born. This, of course, led not only to wrong classification and hence problems due to that, but also some kind of inequality in the society. King Gandharva Sen wanted to solve this problem. He wanted to convey to the people of his kingdom that the caste does not come from birth but from aptitude, and that in the society all the classes of the people play a very important role. All aptitudes are needed in a society in the right proportion, otherwise the society will eventually get destroyed. Hence he married four wives. First was from a Brahmin family, the second from a Kshatriya family, the third from a Vaishya family, and the last one from a Shudra family. The Brahmin wife gave birth to a son called Brahmavit, meaning one who knows Brahma or God. The Kshatriya wife gave birth to three sons: Shank, meaning a conch shell; Vikram, meaning one who is valorous; and Bhratahari, meaning one who is taken care and protected by God. The Vaishya wife gave birth to a son called Chandra, meaning moon. And the Shudra wife gave birth to a son called Dhanvantari, meaning the divine physician who cures many diseases. The six children played and grew together into princes. King Gandharva Sen appointed the oldest son Brahmavit as his prime minister to learn about administrative tasks of the kingdom. Those days, the kings used to generally declare the oldest and the most capable prince as the heir of the kingdom. All princes were also trained based on their aptitude. However, Brahmavit could not fulfill his responsibilities well and went away to another kingdom called Dharanagari and was appointed to a responsible administrative position. But he wanted to become a king, and he knew he was not considered capable enough. So, in due course, he murdered the king of Dharanagari to become the king himself. After quite some years, he decided to visit Ambavati, his native place. But in Ambavati, he fell sick and died. Karma, you may say. With the death of Brahmavit, the second son Shank was afraid that King Gandharva Sen would soon announce Vikram as the heir because he was considered more capable. But Shank desired to be the king and was influenced by the negative deeds of his older brother Brahmavit. And so one day when King Gandharva Sen was sleeping, Shank murdered his own father and declared himself the king. It was shocking news that spread like wildfire in the kingdom, and the people were fearful. The remaining four princes knew that Shank might murder them as well. They escaped the palace to remain in hiding. To ensure that in the future none of his brothers challenge his autonomy, Shank sent his trusted soldiers to kill all the four princes. All but Prince Vikram were killed. The royal spies and soldiers continued to search for Prince Vikram. At last, the spies found that Vikram was in disguise near a temple, spending his time in prayers and meditation to make his mind more and more focused and strong. Killing Vikram would not be an easy job because he was strong, courageous, and skillful enough to fight the enemies who might attack him. So they involved another mendicant who stayed close to the temple and plotted to kill Vikram. Their plan was to let the mendicant befriend Vikram and get him into an isolated dark temple where Shankh would be hiding with his sword. The mendicant would ask Vikram to bow before the deity by touching the head onto the floor. The Shankh would use the opportunity to kill Vikram. So, as per the plan, the mendicant befriended Vikram and, using the excuse of showing him a powerful deity in the temple, led him towards the planned location. However, Vikram, who was always alert and cautious, did not trust the mendicant. On the other hand, he did not want to appear different and attract attention or more questions. So he followed the mendicant to the statue of the deity inside an isolated temple. It was quite dark inside. When the mendicant asked Vikram to bow before the deity with his head touching the ground, Vikram, who was suspicious of the mendicant, asked the mendicant to show the process by example. As soon as the mendicant bowed down, Shankh, who was hiding, sprung out and killed the mendicant, thinking he was Vikram. Vikram took the opportunity to overpower and kill Shankh. Thus Vikram became the new king of Ambavati and was known as King Vikramaditya. He ruled his kingdom well. One day he went for a hunt in the nearby forests. Those days India had many very dense forests with many wild animals like tigers, lions, wolves, foxes, as well as animals like elephants, deers, monkeys, and so on. People did go for hunting animals, either for food, products like animal skin, or to protect against wildlife attacking the nearby villages, or even sport to hone their skills. So one day King Vikramaditya went to the forest for a hunt. As he followed a wild and swift animal to kill, he lost his way in the forest and was separated from his soldiers and companions. As he tried searching his way out of the dense forest, he came to the edge of the forest where he noticed from afar a palatial building. He decided to take shelter in that building. On approaching, he found that it belonged to Tutavaran, meaning one who has accepted a mulberry tree. Tutavaran was the minister of King Bahubal, meaning one with strong arms. Upon knowing the details about King Vikramaditya, Tutavaran welcomed him to the palace. King Vikramaditya was well looked after by Tutavaran, and the two spent time discussing various things. Tutavaran praised the generosity and the kindness of his master King Bahubal. He also admired the valor of King Vikramaditya and suggested that the young King Vikramaditya take the blessings of King Bahubal the next morning. Tutavaran also described a magical throne that King Bahubal possessed, which was supposed to be divine, and only a highly valorous, intelligent, and generous king could sit on it. He also mentioned that one who sat on the throne would be destined to become a powerful emperor. He suggested that if King Bahubal desires to give something to King Vikramaditya, then the magical throne is the best thing to ask for. The next day, when King Vikramaditya met King Bahubal to thank him and his minister Tutavaran for being very kind hosts, King Bahubal expressed the desire to gift something to King Vikramaditya. As suggested by Tutavaran, King Vikramaditya wished for the magical throne. Since Bahubal was surprised at the wish, but being a very generous king, he gifted the throne, saying,
"Had it been someone else, I would have even refused the wish. But since you are a valorous, intelligent, and generous person, I will gift the throne to you. In any case, only a person capable to be a powerful and just emperor can sit on the throne."
King Vikramaditya was obliged with the gift of the magical throne and expressed his gratitude and appreciation of King Bahubal's generosity. Ratna Manjari thus finished the story, narrating of how King Vikramaditya came to possess the magical throne. She then challenged Raja Bhoj, Are you as generous as King Bahubal? Are you as valorous as King Vikramaditya, who fought hard to be able to sit on the throne of Ambavati? Hearing these taunts, Raja Bhoj thought deeply. Analyzing himself, he did not think he had displayed his generosity or valor as much as King Bahubal and King Vikramaditya, but he was confident that he had the abilities. Thinking deeply and analyzing himself, the day went by. At night, Raja Bhoj couldn't sleep well. The happenings with the cowherd, the words of Ratnamanjari haunted him. His desire to sit on the throne started becoming even more firm. Thinking thus, Raja Bhoj went to sleep for the night and made up his mind to try to sit on the throne again the next day.